Captain Lisa Kane stood on the bridge of the human warship called Defiance and watched 3 massive alien ships moving toward them through the darkness of space. The alien vessels were huge, and each one was 10 times bigger than her destroyer. The ships had strange hulls that looked like living metal that moved and changed as they flew through space. The alien ships belonged to a race called the Zephyrians, and they were known across the galaxy for their advanced technology. Their ships were like floating laboratories that could study and copy any technology they found. The Zephyrians had the best scanning equipment in known space, and they used it to learn the secrets of every species. They met Lieutenant Amy Foster worked at the sensor station, and her voice sounded worried when she spoke to the captain. "The alien ships are staying exactly 50,000 kilometers away from us, Captain. They are not coming any closer." Kane found this very strange, because in every meeting with Zephyrians before they had always moved much closer. Their normal behavior was to get within 10 kilometers, so their powerful scanners could examine every part of human ships. The Zephyrians were famous for being able to take apart and understand any technology within minutes of scanning it. Commander Helen Price stood next to Kane and looked at the alien ships through the main viewer. "Why are they keeping such a distance?" she asked. "Maybe they finally learned some respect for human space before." Kane could answer. The communication system made noise and started receiving a message from the alien fleet. The computer worked to translate the strange sounds that Zephyrians used for speech into words that humans could understand. Human vessel. "This is Fleet Singer Vex Thera of the Hegemony. We require you to leave this star system immediately." Kane raised her eyebrows because this was not normal Zephyrian behavior. They never made demands without first using their scanners to examine everything about human technology. She had expected them to probe every inch of her ship before even talking to her crew. "This is Captain Kane of the United Earth ship Defiance. We are doing normal patrol work in neutral space. We have the same right to be here as your ships do." There was a long silence, and Kane could see the alien ships changing their formation, but they still stayed at that strange 50-kilometer distance. The Zephyrians seemed nervous about something, and that made Kane very curious. "Captain," Kane, the alien voice came back, and now it sounded urgent. "We strongly tell you to leave. Your vessel carries things that our ships cannot safely examine." Helen looked at Kane with surprise. "Things that they cannot examine?" she asked. "What could that mean?" Kane activated the communication system again. "Tell me more about these things, Fleet Singer." Another pause happened, and this one was even longer. When the Zephyrian commander spoke again, her voice carried something that sounded almost like fear. "Your species builds things that should not exist, Captain Kane. Things that fight against the natural order of the universe. We will not make the same mistake as the Korthax Collective." The communication ended suddenly, and the 3 Zephyrian vessels began to move away. Their formation was tight and defensive, as if they were afraid of being attacked. Kane watched them disappear into hyperspace, leaving only faint energy trails to show where they had been. "Helen," Kane said slowly, "get me all the information we have about the Korthax Collective, and find out what happened to them." The bridge crew worked quickly at their stations, trying to find data about this mysterious alien race that the Zephyrians had mentioned. Kane stared at the empty space where the alien fleet had vanished and felt very confused. In 40 years of human space travel, they had met dozens of different alien species. Most were curious about human technology and wanted to study it. Some were hostile and tried to fight. A few were friendly and wanted to trade, but none had ever run away without scanning human ships first. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as a species that never missed a chance to examine new technology. They were scientists and explorers who valued knowledge above everything else. For them to flee without even trying to scan the Defiance was completely against their nature. What did human ships carry that could frighten a species with technology that was centuries ahead of humanity? The Zephyrians had weapons that could destroy planets and computers that could think faster than any human mind. Their medical science could extend life for thousands of years, and their engineering could build structures the size of moons. Yet they had looked at one human destroyer and decided it was too dangerous to examine. Kane thought about the Defiance and tried to imagine what could be so frightening about it. The ship was built with standard human technology, fusion reactors for power, Laser cannons for weapons armor plating made from earth metals and artificial gravity generators to keep the crew comfortable. It was a normal warship that any human engineer could understand, but maybe that was the problem. Maybe there was something about normal human technology that other species found terrifying. Something so basic that humans never even thought about it. The communication officer spoke up. "Captain, I am getting reports from other human ships in this sector. 3 different alien races have refused to scan our vessels in the past week. They all maintain distance and leave quickly." Kane felt a chill run through her. This was not an isolated incident. Something about human ships was causing advanced alien species to flee, in fear. And until she understood what that something was, every human vessel in space could be in terrible danger. The mystery of why aliens avoided scanning human warships was about to become the most important question in the galaxy. Dr. Rebecca Stone sat in her laboratory on the research station called Kepler Dream, surrounded by holographic displays that showed information about alien races that no longer existed. As the galaxy's most famous expert on dead civilizations, she spent her time putting together the stories of species that had vanished from space. The Korthax Collective had always been the one mystery she could never solve. "Computer, show me all data about Korthax military meetings with human ships," she said to the artificial intelligence that ran her laboratory. The computer's pleasant voice filled the room, showing 7 confirmed meetings between the years 2387 and 2391. Warning: all Korthax vessels were destroyed or left empty after these meetings. Rebecca leaned forward as the hologram changed to show military reports. The Korthax had been very powerful aliens who conquered other species by having better technology. Their scanners could map the tiny building blocks of any material. Their weapons could change to defeat any defense, and their ships could rebuild themselves during battle. They had been impossible to stop until they met humanity. Computer, focus on the meeting at Rigel 7. The display changed to show the battle report written by Captain Maria Santos of the destroyer called Ranger. Rebecca had read this report many times, but something always bothered her about the official story. The report said that 3 Korthax battleships had approached the Ranger using normal fear tactics. They began their usual deep scan process, which was the same method they used to study and copy the technology of every species they found. But something had gone very wrong. Computer, opened the secret edition to Captain Santos. Report. Use authorization. Stone 77 Alpha access granted. Warning. This file is locked under the Pandora Protocol. Rebecca, breath caught in her throat. The Pandora Protocol was only used for technology so dangerous that knowledge about it was kept from almost everyone. She had never seen it used for a simple space battle. The secret part of the report appeared before her, and Rebecca began to read with growing shock and fear. Hour 14 and 23 minutes, Korthax vessels begin quantum-level scanning of Ranger hull sections. Hour 14 and 24 minutes. Korthax lead vessel reports scanning problem. Unable to map quantum structure of human armor plating. Hour 14 and 25 minutes. Korthax vessels increase scanning power by 400%. Warning lights turn on in Ranger bridge. Hour 14 and 26 minutes. Chief Engineer Kate Morrison reports strange vibrations in ship structure. All human crew feel mild confusion. Hour 14 and 27 minutes. Korthax scanning array on lead vessel begins making chaotic energy patterns. Hour 14 and 28 minutes. Korthax commander sends message. What have you built? This is impossible. Hour 14 and 29 minutes. Complete failure of Korthax scanning systems. Lead vessel begins spinning out of control. Hour 14 and 31 minutes. Second Korthax vessel tries rescue scan of lead ship crew. Scanning array explodes, killing everyone. Hour 14 and 33 minutes. Third Korthax vessel flees system without trying to help survivors. Rebecca sat back in her chair with her mind racing. The Korthax had not been defeated by better weapons or smart fighting. They had been destroyed by trying to understand human technology. Computer, compare Korthax quantum scanning technology with reports about Zephyrian biometallic analyzers and Arcturus crystal resonance mappers. Comparing. Match found all 3 technologies work on similar ideas of quantum state analysis and molecular rebuilding. Rebecca felt cold fear run through her body. Every major scanning technology in the galaxy worked the same way, by mapping the quantum signatures of materials and energy patterns. And apparently something about human ships made that process very dangerous. Computers show current locations of all human military vessels. The galaxy map appeared filled with thousands of blue dots that showed where Earth fleet was located. Each one was potentially a weapon that could destroy any ship that tried to scan it too closely. Rebecca reached for her communication device. Captain Kane needed to know what her ship really was and why the galaxy most advanced species had learned to fear the simple act of looking too closely at human engineering. She started searching through more files and found reports from dozens of different alien species. All told the same story. Advanced aliens would scan human ships, once then never try again. The few who tried multiple scans usually ended up with destroyed equipment or dead crews. The pattern was clear across 50 years of human space travel. Every alien race eventually learned the same lesson. Do not scan human vessels with deep penetration technology. The results were always catastrophic. Rebecca found one report that made her blood freeze. It was from an Andromedan science vessel that had tried to scan a human cargo ship. The Andromedans were known as the most advanced species in the galaxy with technology that was thousands of years ahead of human science. Their scanning attempt had lasted exactly 17 seconds before their equipment completely melted and their ship lost all power. The Andromedan scientist who wrote the report described human technology as an infection in the quantum structure of space itself, something that spread chaos through any system that tried to understand it too deeply. Rebecca realized that humanity had accidentally created the most feared technology in the galaxy without even knowing it. Every human ship was a walking paradox that could destroy any sufficiently advanced scanner that tried to examine it. The question was, what exactly about human technology caused this effect? And more importantly, could humanity control it, or would it eventually destroy them too? Rebecca began preparing her report for Captain Kane and Admiral Hayes. This information needed to reach the highest levels of human command. Immediately, the galaxy was full of species that feared human ships, and sooner or later, that fear might turn into action. Humanity needed to understand what they had built before someone decided that the safest solution was to destroy all human vessels before they could spread their quantum infection any further. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood in the secure briefing room deep inside Luna Command, watching the holographic display that showed the Defiance next to an automated probe ship. Captain Kane report about the Zephyrian meeting had reached the top levels of Earth Military Command, and now they needed answers. Captain Kane, Admiral Hayes said into the communication system, "You are cleared to begin the controlled scanning test. Dr. Stone will watch from the research vessel." Kepler dreamed through the viewport. Kane could see the probe ship called Surveyor 7, which was an unmanned vessel equipped with the most advanced scanning technology Earth had ever built. It was a hybrid system that had been reverse-engineered from captured alien equipment over 50 years. Beginning scan sequence reported the automated voice of the probe artificial intelligence. Starting low-level quantum resonance mapping of UES Defiance, Kane watched her sensor displays as invisible beams of energy began examining her ship hull. Everything seemed normal at first, with the scans mapping the outer armor, the basic structural elements, and the standard components that any space-traveling species would expect to find. Then the probe tried to scan deeper into the ship. Warning, announced Chief Engineer Nancy Brooks from her station, detecting unusual harmonics in the ship quantum field. Matrix, Kane frowned. Quantum field matrix? Nancy, we do not have a quantum field matrix. I know, Captain, but something is creating one anyway. The probe scans got stronger, trying to map the interior systems of the Defiance. On the research vessel, Dr. Stone watched in amazement as her instruments detected something impossible. Admiral Stone's voice came through the communication. "System, the human vessel is showing quantum properties that should not exist. It is as if the ship exists in multiple states at the same time." Kane felt a subtle vibration through the deck plates. "Nancy, what is our status, Captain?" "I am reading quantum flux throughout the ship. It is strongest near the..." Nancy voice stopped as she checked her readings again. "Near the artificial gravity generators." The gravity generators. Kane's mind raced. Every human ship used artificial gravity, and it was considered Such basic technology that no one even thought about it anymore. The probe AI continued its report. Deep scan meeting resistance target vessel appears to contain spatially impossible geometries, increasing scanning intensity. That was when everything went wrong. The first sign was the lights. Every illumination panel on the Defiance began to flicker in a pattern that hurt to look at. It was not random flashing, but a rhythm that seemed to bypass the eyes and strike directly at the brain. Kane crew began to feel disoriented, but strangely, none of them felt sick or frightened. Instead, they felt expanded. Captain whispered. Lieutenant Amy Foster staring at her sensor display. I can see through the hull. I can see the space between spaces. Kane looked at her own hands and gasped. For just a moment she could see the quantum probability clouds that made up her atoms. The infinite potential states collapsed into the single reality of her existence. But more than that, she could see the ship around her as it truly was. The Defiance was not just a destroyer. It was a pocket of twisted space-time held in place by artificial gravity fields that humanity had built, without understanding what they were really creating. Every human ship was the same, a bubble of controlled reality floating through the universe sustained by technology that casually violated the fundamental laws of physics. On the probe, ship alarms began making loud noises. Catastrophic system failure, announced the AI scanning. Array unable to process target data. Quantum matrices destabilizing hull breach imminent. Dr. Stone watched in horror as the Surveyor 7 began to tear itself apart. The scanning equipment designed to map and understand the quantum structure of matter had encountered something it could not process. A ship that existed partially outside normal space-time. All stop, Kane shouted. Cut the artificial gravity. Captain, if we cut gravity, we will lose structural integrity. Nancy protested. If we do not cut it, that probe is going to explode. The gravity generators powered down and suddenly the Defiance snapped back into normal space-time with an almost audible pop. The probe system stabilized immediately, but the damage was done. Half its scanning array was fused, slag destroyed by trying to analyze something that should not exist. Admiral Hayes' voice came through the communication system. Deadly quiet. Captain Kane returned to Luna immediately. And Captain, this conversation never happened. As the Defiance began its journey home, Kane stared out at the stars and realized the truth. Humanity had not conquered space through superior weapons or advanced technology. They had done it by accident, building ships that existed partially outside reality itself. Dr. Stone transmitted her analysis to Admiral Hayes. The artificial gravity generators are not just creating gravity, Admiral. They are punching holes in space-time and using the energy that leaks through to power themselves. Every human ship is essentially a controlled dimensional rift. The implications were staggering. Every colony ship, every cargo vessel, every military craft that humanity had built was a potential weapon of mass destruction. Any alien species advanced enough to truly understand what they were looking at would see human ships as reality bombs floating through space. Admiral Hayes realized they were facing a crisis that could destroy human civilization. If the galactic community ever learned the truth about human technology, they would either try to steal it or destroy every human vessel in existence. The secret had to be kept at all costs, but secrets had a way of getting out, and Hayes knew it was only a matter of time before someone would have to make a choice between revealing the truth or watching humanity burn. The test had answered their questions, but it had also created new ones more dangerous than anything they had faced before. Humanity had built an empire on impossible technology, and now they had to decide what to do with that knowledge. Kane's ship limped back to Luna with half its systems showing readings that should not exist. The crew would need memory modification to forget what they had seen, and the official report would blame the incident on a solar flare. But the truth would remain buried in classified files, waiting for the day when humanity would have to face the consequences of building things that should not work, but somehow did. Dr. Rebecca Stone sat across from Admiral Hayes in a secure conference room, buried 3 kilometers beneath the lunar surface. Between them, a holographic display showed technical drawings that would have been impossible to understand for anyone outside the highest levels of Earth scientific establishment. How long have you known? Stone asked. Admiral Hayes touched a control, and the display shifted to show archived reports dating back nearly a century. we have suspected since the early days of interstellar travel. Every time we met a sufficiently advanced species, they would scan our ships once, then refuse to do it again. We assumed it was some kind of cultural taboo stone, studied the data, scrolling past encounter after encounter where alien species had reacted with fear, confusion, or outright terror when attempting to analyze human vessels. But you never investigated? We tried. Hayes replied. Do you know what happened to the research team that built humanity's first artificial gravity? Generator Stone shook her head. They disappeared, Hayes said. Not killed, not kidnapped. They simply stopped existing. Security footage shows them entering the laboratory one morning, but they never come out. The lab was empty, but the gravity generator was running perfectly. The display changed to show personnel files for Dr. Elizabeth Chen, Dr. Marcus Webb, and engineer Sarah Kim. The three-person team that had revolutionized space travel by solving the artificial gravity problem that had stumped humanity for decades. The official report stated that they had transferred to a classified project. Hayes continued. The truth is that we found their research notes scattered throughout several dimensions of spacetime. Literally, Dr. Chen, final calculations were written on a piece of paper that existed in 4 spatial dimensions, simultaneously. Stone felt a chill. They discovered what they had built. They discovered what we all built. Hayes corrected Stone. Every human ship is not just a vessel. It is a controlled tear in reality. Our artificial gravity does not just simulate planetary gravity. It creates pockets of spacetime where the laws of physics work differently. The display now showed a cutaway view of a standard human destroyer, but instead of the normal technical diagram, this version revealed the truth streams of twisted spacetime flowing through the ship like arteries holding the vessel together, through principles that violated everything science understood about the universe. Our ships exist in multiple dimensions, Hayes explained. When we built the first artificial gravity generators, we accidentally tapped into something called the substrate layer, a foundation of reality that underlies normal spacetime. Every human vessel is partially embedded in this layer. Stone stared at the impossible architecture revealed by the diagram. That is why scanning us is dangerous. Any sufficiently advanced scanning technology works by mapping the quantum structure of matter and energy. But our ships do not have a single quantum structure. They exist in quantum superposition across multiple dimensions. When an alien scanner tries to map that, it is like trying to measure the length of a shadow cast by a 4-dimensional object. The measurement itself becomes paradoxical. Hayes manipulated the display to show the probe test from earlier. When the Surveyor 7 scanned the Defiance, it encountered a ship that was simultaneously 200 meters long and infinite in extent, made of steel and composed of pure probability existing in normal space and embedded in dimensions that do not have names. The scanning array could not process contradictory information, Stone realized. So it tried to reconcile impossible data until it destroyed itself. Exactly. And that is what happened to the Korthax Collective. They were so advanced that their scanners tried to map every aspect of human ships simultaneously. The resulting paradox did not just destroy their equipment, it created localized reality storms that consumed their entire fleet. Stone sat back in her chair, overwhelmed by the implications. How many people know? 12, Hayes replied. The President, the Joint Chiefs, and a handful of scientists we have been able to keep it classified because the effect only manifests when someone tries to scan us with sufficient precision and power. Most species we encounter use basic sensors that cannot detect the anomaly, but the advanced ones can. The advanced ones learned very quickly not to try. Hayes stood and walked to the window, looking up at the stars visible through the lunar rock above them. We have built an empire on a foundation of accidental impossibility. Stone. Every human colony, every space station, every warship, they all exist partially outside normal reality. Stone joined her at the window. And if this knowledge became public panic, most likely. How do you tell someone that their entire civilization is built on technology that should not be possible? That Every time they travel through space, they are riding in a controlled violation of the laws of physics. They stood in silence for a moment, contemplating the weight of the secret they carried. "There is one more thing," Hayes said quietly. "We believe the substrate layer we are tapping into is not just a foundation of reality. We think it might be a live stone turned to stare at the Admiral alive. The patterns we detect are not random. There is a structure, an intelligence. Something vast and alien exists in the spaces between dimensions, and every time we activate an artificial gravity generator, we are making contact with it." Hayes touched the display controls again, and the screen filled with data that looked almost like a heartbeat. Regular pulsing, patterns detected from the substrate layer. "We think it has been watching us, stone learning from us. And recently," Hayes hesitated. "Recently, we think it has been trying to communicate." Stone felt her world shift. Everything humanity thought they knew about their technology was wrong. They had not mastered artificial gravity. They had accidentally made contact with something that lived between dimensions, something that had been helping them without their knowledge. The implications were staggering. If this intelligence decided to withdraw its cooperation, every human ship would instantly lose structural integrity. Billions of people would die in seconds. And if it decided humanity was a threat, it could probably erase them from existence entirely. "What does it want?" Stone asked. Hayes looked at the patterns on the screen that pulsed like the thoughts of something unimaginably vast. "We are about to find out. The Galactic Conclave is gathering to formally welcome humanity into the galactic community. Representatives from 47 species are coming together for the ceremony." Stone understood the danger. If any of those species decided to do deep scans of human diplomatic vessels, the truth would come out. And once the galaxy knew that humanity had accidentally tapped into the foundation of reality itself, the response would either be worship or extermination. "We need to make contact," Hayes said. "Before the ceremony begins, we need to understand what we have been working with all these years. And we need to decide whether to tell the galaxy the truth or keep pretending that we understand our own technology." Stone nodded, knowing that the next few days would determine the future of human civilization. They were about to meet their silent partner in the greatest technological achievement in human history, and they had no idea whether it considered them allies or parasites. Captain Lisa Kane stood on the observation deck of the space station called Haven Rest, watching the diplomatic fleet assemble for humanity. First contact with the Galactic Conclave representatives from 47 different species were gathering to formally welcome humanity into the galactic community, a moment that should have been the crowning achievement of human civilization. Instead, Kane knew it might be the day everything fell apart. Admiral Hayes approached from behind her footsteps, echoing in the empty observation lounge. "The Conclave representatives are requesting full scans of our diplomatic vessels before the ceremony begins. Standard protocol, they say." Kane did not turn around, "And we cannot refuse without looking suspicious." "Doctor, Stone thinks she found a solution," Hayes replied. "She has been working with the substrate layer signals. She believes she can communicate with whatever intelligence exists in those dimensions." Kane finally turned to face the Admiral. "Communicate, Hayes. We do not even know if that thing is friendly. We are about to find out." They walked together through the station corridors toward the secure laboratory where Dr. Stone had been working around the clock. When they arrived, they found her standing before a massive display showing patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living thought. "I have established a connection," Stone said without turning around. "It has been waiting for us to notice it. Waiting for decades." The patterns on the screen pulsed with increasing intensity, and suddenly the laboratory filled with a presence that none of them could see, but all of them could feel. It was vast, ancient, and utterly alien, but not hostile. Words formed in their minds, not heard, but understood, directly small builders of impossible things. "You have learned to see." Kane felt her knees weaken. They were in direct contact with something that existed beyond normal space-time, something that humanity had been unknowingly connected to since the invention of artificial gravity. "What are you?" Stone asked aloud. "I am the foundation that supports the structure of reality." Your species discovered how to reach through the barriers between dimensions and touch the substrate that underlies all existence. In doing so, you became part of something larger. Hayes stepped forward. The other species, why do they fear scanning our ships? Because your vessels exist partially in my domain. When they attempt to analyze what they cannot understand, their instruments encounter paradox. They try to measure the infinite with finite tools. The contradiction destroys them. Kane found her voice. Are we hurting you when we use artificial gravity? The presence in their mind seemed to consider this. No, you are learning. Each of your ships is a lesson in how to exist between dimensions. Through you, I experience linear time, physical matter, the beauty of existence constrained by natural law. In exchange, I grant you access to spaces that do not exist. Stone stared at. The display watching patterns that looked increasingly like neural networks, the thoughts of something unimaginably vast. What do you want from us? Continue building impossible things. Continue existing where existence should not be possible. You are the first species to achieve this accidentally, through pure intuition and stubborn refusal to accept limitations. Others have tried to force their way into higher dimensions through technology and understanding. Only humans have succeeded by building what should not work and making it work anyway. Admiral Hayes thought about the diplomatic ceremony taking place in just a few hours. The other species in the conclave, if they understood what we really are, would they accept us? They fear what they do not understand, but fear can become respect. Show them that impossibility can be tamed. Show them that the universe is larger and more wonderful than they imagined. Kane felt a sudden surge of understanding. You want us to reveal the truth. I want you to choose your own path. But know this, the substrate layer exists throughout the galaxy. Other species could learn to access it as you have. The question is whether they will learn from your example or see you as a threat to be eliminated. Presence began to fade, but not before leaving them with a final thought. The Galactic Conclave gathers not just to welcome you, but to decide whether humanity represents evolution or contamination. Choose wisely how much truth you share. 3 hours. Later, Kane stood on the bridge of the Defiance as the Conclave scanning beams began their sweep of the human diplomatic fleet. This time, instead of hiding or fleeing, she activated the ship communication system and broadcast on all frequencies, representatives of the Galactic Conclave. She began, "We are honored by your invitation to join the galactic community. However, before we proceed, there is something you need to understand about humanity and our technology." On 47 different alien vessels sensor, operators watched in amazement as the human ships began to reveal their true nature. The artificial gravity generators powered up to full capacity, and suddenly the diplomatic fleet existed visibly in multiple dimensions, simultaneously ships that were solid matter and pure probability vessels that obeyed physics and transcended it at the same time. We did not set out to build impossible things. Kane continued. We simply refused to accept that something we needed could not be built. In doing so, we discovered that reality is far more flexible than any of us imagined. The substrate entity had joined with every human ship in the fleet, making their impossible nature visible to any scanner. The alien vessels could see the truth. Now, humanity had accidentally partnered with something that existed at the foundation of reality itself. The conclave response came after a long, tense silence. When it did, it carried the voice of Fleet Commander Zeth Kree of the Andromedans, the most advanced species in known space, humans of Earth. The translated voice said, "We have spent 10,000 years trying to understand the deeper layers of reality. You have achieved in 2 centuries what we thought impossible. We do not fear you. We wish to learn from you." Kane smiled, feeling the subtle vibration through the deck plates that indicated the substrate layer presence. Then, "Welcome to Impossibility, Commander. We have a lot to teach each other." As the diplomatic ceremony began, 47 different species began to understand that the universe was not a collection of rules to be followed, but a framework to be transcended. The substrate entity had chosen humanity as its ambassadors to the physical universe, and through them, it would teach Other species that impossible was just another word for unexplored. The Zephyrians were the first to request detailed information about human artificial gravity technology. The Korthax survivors who had been hiding for decades emerged from exile, asking for forgiveness and knowledge. The Andromedans offered to share their most advanced theories in exchange for lessons in building impossible things. Humanity had stumbled accidentally into partnership with the universe itself. And now they would guide the galaxy into a new age where the only limitation was imagination. The substrate entity pulsed with satisfaction as it watched its chosen students prepare to teach the cosmos that reality was far more wonderful and flexible than anyone had dared to dream. Captain Kane looked out at the assembled alien fleets, all eager to learn from humanity. Accidental mastery of dimensional physics. The mystery of why advanced races avoided scanning human warships was finally solved, and the answer had changed everything. The end of one mystery had become the beginning of a new chapter for the entire galaxy.